So, how do you ignore a guy and leave him chasing you? So, try ignoring a guy and see what happens. It's a great way to get him and keep him. Really? Is it? If you're following this advice, you might actually be destroying your love life and really need to watch this video, or you literally risk forever being confused and depressed about love. The chase is such a big topic that we must kind of address this once and for all because it is destroying love lives. And the idea of it is so commonly wrong in the way that it's covered. So this video is going to give you the truth about how to make a man chase you the only way that actually works. And when you don't know this stuff and you end up doing things that most love advice videos and articles suggest, you're literally cementing the fact that he won't chase you. You're making it 100% that he won't. And even worse, you'll never even know what it was that you were doing wrong. You'll never even know. And it's something that's so simple to fix, but you won't know it. So this video is going to also reveal the number one way to actually make a guy chase you and put you in the position of power. Hey, it's Erin, your personal love expert, back again on the channel where we make men make sense. VixenDaily. So if you're ready to learn what really works to make a guy chase you, right, I'm ready right now in the comments while the intro plays. This video has been requested so many times, so I hope you guys enjoy. But before we dive in, I have a very small favor to ask. If you like this video, any of my videos, love advice, anything about me, what I'm wearing, then leave me a like, a thumbs up, give me a like, share, subscribe, tell people all about it. So, do men like the chase? Not exactly. Men don't like to be smothered, which is why giving a man the room to kind of chase you kind of makes the concept seem like, oh yeah, of course the chase is right, because giving space does definitely make a man reach for you. And when you don't give space, it makes a man unable to love and fall in love. But here's the problem. Most women are making a really fatal mistake that kind of happens after the initial spark happens, after you hit it off with a guy, right? So it's a very common thing. It's something most women have done. It's after you feel interested, you start thinking, how do I do things to make him like me more and more? What do I do? What can I do here to make sure he stays interested and gets more interested? This mentality is rooted in this idea of trying to impress. You're trying to impress the guy and you're prepared to do whatever it takes, whether it's, a few white lies here and there, a few really huge omissions, a few, things that you'll do and just pretend to be a certain way because you really are this desperate to impress. Now, the reason this sabotages you is because men sense the desperate need to impress. Your desperation is something that he feels. You may think you're fooling him, but you're not fooling anybody. You may think you're being sly. You may even think that it's working because you see some small result from being kind of a fake you, and then you'll talk about things he likes even though you hate them, or you'll do things that are literally the opposite of who you are just to make him think that you're the type of girl that he actually does like. But sooner or later, the vibe that you give off is going to turn him off. He will pull away because it is centered in this desperate need to impress. And then the more that you try to then do things to pull him back when he inevitably pulls away, the worse things become. The failed relationship happens and you end up screaming at the sky saying, why? What did I do? I keep trying so hard, yet nothing I do works. Well, the things that you're trying, the things that you're doing are actually driving him farther and farther away. So I want to give you an example. There's a woman that I am very close with who really met this guy. She really hit it off with him, was so into him. He liked wine tasting. She decided that she wanted to pretend that she liked wine tasting. She knew nothing about it. She hated it, but she dove right in, pretended she loved it. She went along with it, and her whole life ended up becoming this giant cycle of chasing, pretending, assuming a different personality, having to do things she actually hated just to try to impress him. And obviously, sooner or later, she ended up losing the relationship. It didn't end up working out. And the whole time she was uncomfortable, constantly calling the places he was at, afraid of what he was doing, just fearful because she wasn't being her. She was doing something that wasn't anything, enjoyable to her. And she couldn't be honest about her experience. And instead she pretended. So this is kind of similar to another thing that a lot of women will do, which is have these dating tactics, right? So personally, I know that there are so many tactics that people think work, but the truth is, when you go into a date or a dynamic and you think to yourself, what am I gonna do here in order to basically trick the person in front of me into liking me? You're coming from a place of insecurity and desperation. You aren't coming from a place of fun. You're not coming from any attractive place. You are only coming from desperate energy, an energy that centers around him and impressing him. But you're missing something here. See, for me, in the wine tasting example, if a guy says to me, I want to go wine tasting, I love wine tasting, what I'd honestly say is, I honestly find wine tasting really pretentious, but I'll go just because I think it'll be funny. That's what I would say. And that is the difference between trying to impress and actually being in the moment, which is what you must do. And I'm going to explain all that in a moment. But I want you to really understand the difference between expressing your genuine truth and being somebody else. Trying to impress versus existing. It's not about impressing him. It's about discovering him. It's about experiencing him. That is the nature of what love is, of relationships. That's what it is. It's not about impressing. It's discovery and experiencing. Women fall into the trap when they start thinking, I have to trick him, tricking somebody into liking you. You feel like you wouldn't be interesting otherwise. You feel like you need some kind of a trap. A lot of love advice and relationship tips and dating tips honestly promise delusional results that center around how to ignore a guy who ignores you, or how to ignore a guy who likes you, or how to ignore a guy to get his attention. Do you know what those are? Those are tactics. Those are tricks. Those are all things that actually kill your ability to have a connection, and it doesn't work. It doesn't matter if you know how to ignore a guy at work effectively, if you know how to, make him feel like he's powerless, or, all this stuff. You're asking yourself the wrong questions. Stop asking yourself how to ignore a guy and leave him chasing you. How to ignore a guy. How do you do it exactly? How do you leave him chasing you? These questions come from the poison of many modern dating tips for women. The him chasing you and the concept of chasing isn't achieved by some plan to ignore a guy or make the guy suffer or trick him. Relationships don't happen by trickery. They don't, no matter how much you want them to. And if they do, it won't be one that lasts. It'll be a bad relationship that you'll never feel comfortable in. You'll never be able to find true happy relationships if you operate from trickery. The right question to ask is, am I trying to trick him to date me? If you answer yes, think really carefully and tell me in the comments down below if you feel you're trying to trick someone into dating you or convince them. Because if the answer is yes, you are on the wrong track. But now you know, so you are saved from wasting your whole life trying to trick somebody into liking you, because that will never happen. Okay, so I know that I just explained what is not gonna work, but how about what does make an impression? How do you actually impress a guy then? I have the answer for you. What actually makes an impression is that you are super present and there. You're in the moment with your full attention. You are curious. You're discovering. Ironically, the only thing that will impress a guy is if you're really present and genuinely curious. You're actually there in the moment and you're able to be there. What does this exactly mean? All it literally means is that you are not thinking of what to do. You're actually getting to know him. You're not thinking of what could go wrong or what might happen. You're just listening, experiencing, and the interaction goes in a flow. So one thing to always remember, to never kiss a guy's butt and just agree with everything he says for the sake of impressing him, because it won't. I'm not saying to disagree though, and to be difficult, because if you do disagree, that's totally fine, like the wine tasting example. You can say your disagreement in a pleasant way without being difficult. Being rude on purpose or mean is the exact same thing as trying to impress. They're both rooted in the same flawed mentality. If you do disagree, let it go, don't engage. So if you think that being mean is the answer, it's not. So you're not trying to impress, you're not being mean, you're just being in the conversation. You can be pleasant without being confrontational. So if he's talking about sports that you just don't have any interest in, just don't engage. Don't say, oh, ew, screw that, I hate guys that like sports. Don't do that. That's just not pleasant. That's not being a person that is respectful or good to be around. The trick here, I hate the word trick, but it does apply if you really know that this is the trick. The trick is to engage with him in a way that is interesting to you or that you can be curious about. So if he's talking about his life on a farm as a kid and you aren't really sure about farms, rather than saying, yeah, I love farms, I love milking cows, when you don't know how to, you can say, oh, it's crazy. I've never been to a farm, but it's like such an interesting concept. Like I feel like it would be so cool to experience or something, like that. You don't have to be fake, but you don't have to be rude either. So be original by being yourself. There's a difference between being original and being fake original. You don't have to go be the opposite of what is pleasant. That's the same thing as trying to be fake pleasant. So being too nice, too agreeable, and being too disagreeable are both the wrong thing to be doing. Being original is just being in the center of life and the experience. So you're not trying to prove anything. You're just being there and finding what you are actually interested in, stating it, and then talking. You're just in the moment. And another trick is to occupy your own life with things that you love, because this is a very important point to always remember. Relationships aren't there to make you happy. You bring happiness into them, and it reflects that happiness back to you. That's what a real, healthy, good relationship is. Now, the next thing to do to make a man chase you is to give him space. So now you know that you're not trying to impress. You're not going to be confrontational either. You're going to simply engage and be pleasant. Find what you're interested in, or just politely don't say anything. Be yourself and don't pretend to like things you don't, and occupy your own life with things you love, but realize that the reason to do the occupy your life with things you love is because relationships aren't there to make you happy. It's so important that I have to repeat it to you, and you must never forget this. Relationships will reflect the happiness back to you only when you are already full and happy. It's so, so powerful that if you remember one thing, please never forget that. So if you don't give a guy space, he could literally be the best guy for you, and it won't end up being a relationship because you'll interrupt his process. So men need a process to fall in love, to miss you. That initial process has to be there, and if you don't give him space, the process won't happen. He needs to recharge his batteries while you recharge yours. Even if you don't think you need to, because you need to show up fresh and have new things to talk about, new things to discuss. You can't just constantly be in communication, then you'll have nothing to even talk about. Giving space automatically makes you not be needy as well. So space is a beautiful, effective, and powerful thing to do whenever you're feeling like things are not going the way you want. If you're the one chasing him, give him space as a rule of thumb. Another thing to do is think about whether you even truly enjoy him or not. So instead of saying, I like this about him, I like him so much, and spending your time kind of idealizing him, ask yourself, what is it that you like about him? Instead of saying, does he like me? I have to make sure he likes me. That's a very powerful shift in how you think, because you're going to be thinking from true compatibility assessment rather than I need to kind of define myself and make sure he likes me to validate myself. That's actually the wrong way to look at relationships. But instead, ask yourself, what do I like about him? And then internalize that and really think about that, because that's a much better thing to look at. Because if you don't actually like who he is and appreciate who he is, then it might not be the right thing to pursue. Now, another thing that is very important to do when thinking of how to make a man chase you is to be single until he locks you down. So it's very simple when you look at it. Either you're single or you're taken. So it's either single or not. And if you end up acting like his girlfriend, he has no reason to make you his girlfriend, because you're kind of giving him everything without even having to have him commit. A man commits to a woman he knows he will lose if he doesn't. That's a very important thing to know, because if you give him everything, you throw everything at him, why would he commit? He doesn't have to. And make sure to keep your options open and date whoever you want until he locks you down, because if he senses that energy, you are clearly not just being taken for granted when you're actually dating others. And he'll sense that energy. He will lock you down if he doesn't want to lose you. If he was ever going to commit, when you have this mentality of I'm single until he locks me down, then he will actually rise to the occasion. So this is a win-win, because if you do all these things and he doesn't chase you, in other words, pursue you, then you know he was never going to in the first place. That's the central realization. If you do all these things, you can at least say to yourself, okay, it just wasn't a good match, and that's okay. It didn't work out. That's life. It happens. You move on. You leave yourself open for men who actually like you naturally, but you have all these things in place that will set you up to win. If you do all of these things, which are drop trying to impress by pretending to be someone you're not, or pretending to be a bitch, or pretending to ignore him, or whatever it is, when you are self-sufficient, not looking for a relationship to make you happy, when you can be really present and simple, when you focus on having fun in your interactions, when you can be honest with yourself about whether you're having fun, do I like this interaction in and of itself, even if it doesn't lead to anything. If you can do those things, then you know you did exactly what you could. And if he still doesn't like you, then he was not going to step up in the first place. But if there's any chance that he will, these things will allow that to take hold. And if you don't do these things, you will literally lose men that would have otherwise been good matches. So this is very, very, very important. Men love the energy that a woman gives off when she doesn't need him to fill her with joy. That's what all of these things are achieving. You're a full woman. You're full of your own joy. You don't need anybody to save you, to heal you, to give you strength. You are you for all that you are, for the good and the bad. You know yourself. And this kind of thinking actually gives him space for a real connection to take root, a real one, profound love. And that kind of love can bloom. And instead of you trying to make him commit and make him want you, you're just having fun, you're being you, and you're single, which sets the perfect stage for him to reach for you, to chase you, and eventually commit to you. I say eventually because it's not going to happen overnight, because he knows that he could lose you if it doesn't happen. If he doesn't commit and lock you down, he knows he could lose you. You don't have to say it, he feels it. He instinctually knows, and men are actually addicted to chasing women who don't try to make them chase them. If you're trying to make him chase you, you're already losing. So I really hope that this has helped you. Please ask me any questions about what I've covered, and I will answer any question as I always do. And be sure to hit the like button because it really helps me out by letting YouTube know to recommend this video to more people. Subscribe also for more love advice so you get to have the love life that you really want, and I will see you next time.